Ian Fleming wrote a book, James Bond, in case you didn't know. He was posh. He had a very easy life ahead of him. He went to the poshest school there is, right? But he gets kicked out that school for banging birds. Anyway, so then Ian goes to military academy and gets kicked out for banging a prostitute, and he gets the clap. Mate, happiness. It's a tricky situation. To make things worse, he fucking flies to Geneva to learn languages just so he could bang more birds, right? That is dedication. Dedication to banging.
Welcome, ring bearers and librarians, to Geek Salad episode 240, Ian Fleming's Rings of Twilight Hunger. I'm Andy.
I'm Mike.
I'm Joe.
I'm Katherine.
And tonight we are gathered once again to discuss movies. In this case, it's movies that book series that were turned into movie series. Unless the movie series was so bad they had to cancel it, thus we never got the full series. That was a mouthful. But I'm sure as you go through everything today, it'll all make sense. So we haven't talked about, maybe. I mean, we haven't talked about books in forever, so I'm kind of happy that we're doing this. And it was like, it took me a little bit to think of stuff, and I'm like, oh, wait, no, that's based on a book series. Oh, no, wait. That's based on a book series.
Yeah, when I first started coming up with this idea, I was putting it together, and it just started sprawling out of control. And I'm like, okay, we have to narrow it down into series categories,
right?
Because
we could just talk about movies based on books,
forever.
And yeah, so this is part of a multi-part series that will span decades, as we
Yes, this is the new books to movie series.
Yeah, and
this time we're talking about book series.
Yeah, it's interesting too because there's a couple of books that I popped into mind
Not so much.
that didn't become series, not because the movie wasn't good, but because they would just cost so damn much. Like I'm thinking about the movie Master and Commander is technically The Far Side of the World is 2 books. There's I think 5 or 6 books in the series. But they only made 1 movie of it. James Ellroy's books, I think L.A. Confidential was the only one out of its series to get made. I'm not counting the Blue Dahlia because that movie was boring as hell.
Black Dahlia?
Black Dahlia. What did I say?
Blue
Dahlia. Oh, damn it. Yeah, the Black Dahlia. Thank you for correcting me, Katherine. So thank you for keeping me on this. So anyway, we actually had quite a bit of feedback on the socials here. So let's start off with our Facebook feedback here, for the app that didn't change its name for no good reason. After it loads What's that, Katherine?
We know why it changed its name. It's just a dumb reason.
Yeah.
Well, now it's an X app.
Well, that's it's because Elon Musk has been trying to name something X forever because he's dumb.
Yeah, exactly. And he thinks that X sounds cool because he's 11 years old.
Yeah. Do you remember he's stuck in the 90s going, okay, we got the X Games.
Yeah.
He seems like the kind of guy that would regularly do the Degeneration X over his crotch every time he says the X.
Oh, God. You would be the one.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. But like I said, if you've ever seen that thing on Twitter, the meme of just Elon Musk slams dick in the car door Elon Musk bros. Masterful gambit, sir.
Yes.
So
But
anyway, let's start with some of these. Now, we did say book series, and we do appreciate people who come out and let us know their thoughts on movies that were turned, books that were turned into movies. Some of these are not serious, but I'm still going to read them anyway because I appreciate everybody giving us their input on this. So we're going to start with Jamie Shea, who actually has got quite a few contributions on here. The Green Mile, great movie. It's been forever since I've seen The Green Mile, but Jamie, we will actually be getting to a Stephen King. I look at the books and movies of Stephen King, not in the not too distant future. So we're going to be talking about that.
There's so many, he gets his own damn episode.
Exactly. Jamie also brings up The Dark Tower. Horrendous. I haven't seen the Idris Elba movie. I know that our friend Derek Jones from the Midnight Myth podcast loves The Dark Tower. In fact, his other podcast, The Wheel of Ka, had been covering the Dark Tower books. But yeah, the movie is just horrendous. Now, again, because I think it was an original story based in the world of the Dark Tower. I'm not sure because I won't watch it. Jamie adds to that, saying that interestingly, in the end of the book series was atrocious. So I was interested if they would change it, and they chose to make the whole movie bad. Jamie also brings up The Princess Bride, not a book series, but it's true to a book as I've ever seen. And with the exception of changing the nationality of Fezzik, you can't begrudge that.
And the author of The Princess Bride, William Goldman, wrote the screenplay, and he based Fezzik on Andre the Giant. And then when they got Andre the Giant, adjustments were made. But you can't hate on that.
Yeah, no, you absolutely can't. Andre is iconic in our hearts and minds, and you don't even need to be a wrestling fan because of that.
Indeed.
And as an aside, thanks to Behind the Bastards, we learned that Andre the Giant is actually a nice guy. It was actually a nice guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
a bit kooky, but a nice guy.
Well, when you're
generally.
7 foot, 7 foot infinity, and it takes you like barrels of wine to get drunk, you're going to be a little eccentric.
This isn't French wine.
Just read the Carrie Elway's what was it?
Yeah.
His
Carrie Elway's is.
Princess
I've watched
Bride
the video diary. Yeah, I've watched Carrie Elwes' video diary on my collectible edition of Princess Bride.
Yeah, and nothing will ever top the story of how influential the Andre was behind the scenes of the WWF at the time, when he actually waited until the Ultimate Warrior was like in his full makeup and armbands and steroid glory, and then told him, "Yo, get me French wine." And like the look on the kid's face at that 7-Eleven where he's watching the Ultimate Warrior have to go in to find like French wine.
Yeah,
All right, so we also have Diane Twist, who brings up the Artemis Fowl movie was deplorable, and I really enjoyed the book. I thought Good Omens was pretty true to the book and very enjoyable. Jamie Shea corrects her with that it wasn't a theatrical release. Diane counters with, I feel that 10 Hours productions are theatrical. They're a poor representation of the book that we're based on, and there were good ones too. If you want to stick strictly to a few-hour complete format, then The Hobbit was dreadful. And we're going to be talking a little bit about that because a lot of people have some feelings on The Hobbit. Margot Baker Thompson brings up most of the movies from John Grisham's books, which I believe are in their own contained, like genteel Southern lawyer universe.
Mm.
I think
Possibly.
In all honesty, after the Pelican Brief, actually no, was it Pelican Brief or A Time to Kill? It was one of them, and then I just gave up. I couldn't read the books anymore.
What was that, Joe?
I don't know. They do. I do think they take place in their own shared universe, but I don't think you can consider it a series in the sense that they're interconnected to each other.
Right. One action from one, upstart lawyer from the South doesn't interact with another upstart lawyer from the South, right?
Right.
It's tough to say because, again, I gave up on Grisham like at the peak of his popularity because I'm like, these books are unreadable.
I've only seen one of his movies, and that's the Client.
The Client. Okay. Yeah, I saw The Client, I saw The Firm, I saw The Pelican Brief, and I saw Time to Kill. Oh, I saw The Rainmaker, but that's about it.
Yeah, I saw a couple of those, and I've never watched them again.
Yeah, I need to.
They're very 90s.
I'm good. I'm good.
That's what I remember.
Yeah.
And then Dave Twist brings up, I've never really gotten a handle on the Alex Cross series of books. They tried with Morgan Freeman, but the directing and overall quality was terrible. They tried again with Tyler Perry, changed the location of the story, his partner's race and competence, and destroyed the story. It seems like an easy adaptation. An African-American cop, FBI agent, psychologist, and his partner working against the clock. Yeah. I've seen two of the movies, and they're kind of forgettable. And then we have John Saul, who says, the best, Lord of the Rings and the first Hobbit movie. Now, I'm going to consider The Hobbit to be part of a series because, technically speaking, it's all part of this grander Middle-earth series.
Right.
I feel like that's
the
book's doing more. I mean, the movie's doing more than the books.
Right. Well,
it's based on The Hobbit and the Silmarillion. So there you go. There's your book series.
Oh, there we go.
And the appendices.
It also has a connected.
The Silmarillion.
Yeah. Bilbo is both The Hobbit and in Lord of the Rings, so
true. John says the worst are the Hobbit's second and third movies. The first movie trilogy and the initial Hobbit film hadn't been so good. So if the first movie trilogy and the initial Hobbit film hadn't been so good, my expectations for the rest could have been reached. You know what? Here's the thing. I think I've said this before about the Hobbit movies. I had a completely different view on the Hobbit movies when I watched the behind the scenes stuff. And a lot of it's just because I understand how much work went into shooting the movie. Yeah, it does not have the heart of the first trilogy. And that said too, in The Desolation of Smaug, that might be the best representation of a dragon I have ever seen on the big screen.
Yeah.
Well, that's because Benedict Cumberbatch did the mocap for it.
Yeah. Oh, he did a phenomenal job with that too.
Yeah.
Oh, the big problem too is they try to stretch a single book into 3 movies when it really didn't need to be.
No.
Right.
It's not that long of a book either.
If it was just a single movie, you just have it as a prequel to the Lord of the Rings series, it would have been fine. It would have been perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what when they drag. Sorry, go for it.
I think that.
Joe?
You just get the sense that he didn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah. And
Peter,
I mean, the thing with sorry, go ahead, Catherine.
Yeah, Peter Jackson was done, and they dragged him back in, and it was like whoever was going to do the Hobbit movies was out, and they dragged Peter Jackson back, and he had wanted, from what I remember at the time before the movies came out, he wanted to do 2, and Fox was like, no, more money, make 3, and he was like, okay, we're gonna have to put in a lot of filler stuff, and the fans didn't like the filler crap.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, you just watch those movies, and you can two at most would have been perfect. But yeah, 'cause, I mean, like the first one, isn't bad. It's fine. I think the second one's the best, and then the third one is just really overblown.
Yeah. So from what I could tell from the behind the scenes stuff on the movies, essentially what Peter Jackson ended up with was 2.5 movies. There was a story that he wanted to tell, and it would have spanned 2.5 movies. And then it's like, okay, well, I guess I got to blow this up. That's why the whole Battle of the Five Armies, which is a paragraph in the book, is, an 1.5 hour long epic battle.
Yeah.
Epic. And with rabbit fingers.
So let's move over to let's move over to 10. Sorry, Twitter, X, whatever. And we've got Movies for Real at Movies for Real Pod, who says, I think the first Percy Jackson movie was actually a good adaptation and was a shame it went downhill with the second film, hoping the series is good and they can tell a whole story of Percy.
There are 12 Olympian gods. Big three are the brothers Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades. The children of these gods were half human, half gods.
Hey, Mom. I thought this school was supposed to make things better.
Someday it'll all make sense.
Percy Jackson, we need to talk.
Miss Dodds?
Whoa! I found him.
Who found me?
Yeah, I don't know. The movie is just, it just ain't great. There's a lot of issues. I have a lot of issues with them. Yeah, I'm hoping for a good series that's coming up on Disney Plus later this year. But I've only also read the first book, and for books that are written for young adults and older children, they are interminable. It feels like they go on forever.
Oh, really? I haven't read them yet. But
okay.
It's just. I like the first Percy Jackson movie. Just I like the concept. There's the foundations there of a good, story. Especially since it's a game that Katherine and I are playing right now. Actually, sort of like along those lines.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I kind of like.
Tabletop role-playing game called Scion.
Yeah. And I like the concept. I haven't read the book, but again, it's like one of those things. Yeah, the first movie was entertaining, but the second one was just like, oh God, they really dropped the ball on this one.
Yeah. No, it seems like it should have been more epic than it was.
Yeah,
but it ain't. All right, then we got our friend Tom from Perpetual Cinema, who says The Thin Man for the win. I had totally forgotten that The Thin Man is based on a series of books. I love the first movie was like, it was like one of my go-tos when I worked at Suncoast Story. So drink if you're holding alcohol right now.
Drink whatever you got.
I have a cup of black coffee here because I'm exhausted. I don't know why I am as tired as I am today. But I love The Thin Man. So I really enjoyed the movies.
That's actually a movie series I'm surprised has not been remade.
I am too. I mean, that's the kind of thing that, maybe people are just going to look at and go, why would you dare do that?
No, it's unlikely. Nothing is sacred in Hollywood.
Yep.
Thin Man, remind me.
Like you said, Katherine, nothing is sacred in Hollywood. So how come the Thin Man series hasn't been remade or updated? It's like it'd be the perfect series, for like a George Clooney type, vehicle.
I could see him pulling it off. It really.
Oh, because I can see why. Because it's we're not into detectives right now.
Directed by Steven Soderbergh.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it would be great, and it would get us into a detective period.
I agree.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Ryan Johnson.
Yeah.
Ryan Johnson. Glass Onion is so fucking good.
Oh, it is. It is.
Oh, yeah.
So, Mike, essentially, the story of The Thin Man is that there's this couple, Nick and Nora, who are just the most wonderful alcoholics you will ever meet, and their dog, Asta. And they solve crime. Oh, And I feel like that's a strong point, maybe why it hasn't been remade yet, because, hashtag cancel culture, that, they are, in fact, alcoholics. Every scene is them holding a drink or having a drink or fixing a drink. And it's like, it's delightful, but it's delightful in a 1930s type of delightful.
I think it's just because the detective genre hasn't had a comeback yet.
Yeah,
we're still in like superheroes and YA drama.
Yeah.
Someday the detective genre will come back, and then we'll get some Thin Man.
Well, I mean, we did just get like those two. What was it? Glass Onion and
Knives Out and
Yeah.
Knives Out, Glass Onion, Knives Out story.
And they are making a third Hercule Poirot movie.
Yeah, Kenneth Branagh has not given up on the Agatha Christie, so.
No.
Yeah, because Kenneth Branagh has all the money and all the clout. That's why.
And that's actually one that we didn't bring up here. Let's stop for a second and talk about those. Have you guys seen Murder on the Orient Express or Death on the Nile?
A passenger has died. So they got him after all. You assume he was killed?
No, not. Well, he was in perfectly good health. He had his enemies.
Indeed, he was murdered.
God, murder here. God rest his soul.
Someone was rummaging around my cabin in the middle of the night. No one would listen to me.
If there was a murder,
what is going on?
Then there was a murderer. The murderer is with us. And every one of you is a suspect.
And who are you?
My name is Hercule Poirot, and I am probably the greatest detective in the world.
I've seen like one of the old ones.
I haven't seen the Kenneth Branagh stuff yet. No.
I've seen like the Masterpiece Theater. Version.
Yeah, the ones I keep meaning to get around to, but not getting around to it.
They are both really good. I feel like Murder on the Orient Express is a better overall movie. Only because I feel like Death on the Nile just had to force itself into release because it was, I think, due to be released in 2020, and obviously things happened, and then they found out that Armie Hammer may or may not be a cannibal. So that was like, ugh, got to downplay this guy. But the first movie, the Murder on the Orient Express, is really good. I've seen Murder on the Orient Express done several times. Like the David Chusset Poirot, and this one is excellent. Everybody in it is really commendable. They all do a really good job in it. And Branagh clearly loves not only playing the character, but telling these stories. So I think that they're both the movies are very good. Death on the Nile is pretty good. It keeps you guessing as to who did it, which is the whole point. But that's because I feel like he really wants to tell Christie's story.
Okay,
it's worth it. And I think they're on Hulu.
I haven't gotten around to them yet. I didn't hear great things about Murder on the Orient Express, and I love Agatha Christie, so
yeah.
I haven't made time for it.
It is good. It all hinges on your Poirot, and Branagh just really sinks his teeth into this. I love this era of Kenneth Branagh. I really do. I think he's doing his best work now because it's like, oh, I don't have to do Shakespeare anymore. Really?
Okay. Doesn't have. It's not that he doesn't have to do Shakespeare anymore. He's aging out of the Shakespeare roles he likes to play. He held onto that copy of Hamlet for how long?
Longer than the movie, but only barely.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's continue on with our Twitter feedback here. I'm sorry, Joe. Did you have something to add?
No, I was just gonna say, like Katherine said, like you said, he's got the clout now that he can.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
If he wants to play the sandbox, he can.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, so let's move on. We've got our new friends, Bitches with Beards at Bearded Bitch Pod, who brings up, and this, again, not surprisingly, a very powerful or popular topic. Middle Earth Saga is by far the biggest contradiction. Lord of the Rings is superb, a real passion project. The Hobbit forgot its audience, and Ring of Power forgot its plot. And while Ring of Power is Amazon, we'll allow it in the comments.
Yep, fair enough.
Yeah. And then we've got one more here. Cinema Medicine Podcast at Cinema Medicine says Aragon is by far the worst adaptation I have ever seen, thus killing the any potential for a series.
I never saw it.
I'll buy it.
Oh
yeah. I didn't see it either, Mike. But I've heard that the people who grew up with the books felt a betrayal like you have never felt in your life.
Yeah, I feel like a studio was like, oh, we have to jump on this whole Harry Potter thing. What's a property we could pick up? Oh, this looks good. There are dragons. Cool.
Oh God,
I haven't read any of it. You know, that particular series didn't appeal to me. No judgment on it. It's just not me. But yeah, I can see that being like somebody was basically trying to exploit it.
Yeah.
There's
that's
a reason
kind of the
why
issue with these. And we'll talk about that in a little bit actually, but
yeah, there's a reason why Tamora Pierce has never signed away movie rights to any of her books. Is because she doesn't trust people.
It's been a long, cold existence. I can't trust anybody.
Nothing of hers has ever been adapted because she's like, they're gonna fuck it up.
Sounds like Alan Moore and Peel Travers.
Oh yeah.
Except that she doesn't have the ego of Alan Moore. You know? And Alan Moore has signed off a lot of his stuff and then gone, oh, they didn't do it right. Whatever, dude.
Yeah.
He's just grumpy beard with eyes.
That's true. He is the man thing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for contributing to the discussion. We appreciate that. If you are also a person on the X's, feel free to follow any of our fine friends who replied back to us. Now, I'm going back to our lists here. Mike, did you mention your coworker Corey? Is that you?
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. When he walked into work today, he's like, "Oh, I saw on Facebook that you guys are talking about movie series based on book series," and he mentioned that he really loved S.E. Hinton's books, which is the Outsiders, That Was Then, This Is Now, Rumble, Fish, and Tex, all of which were made into movies.
All within about a year of each other.
Yeah, and I don't think they're connected, but they all kind of take place in the same kind of Oklahoma-ish area.
Yeah, it would be like denying that the John Hughes movies don't exist in the same universe.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think all of his movies, all of her movie is also star Matt Dillon in different characters.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. It's also interesting too that I don't know if you saw, The Outsiders is coming to Broadway as a musical.
Broadway's back.
Well, so is Jaws, but I mean,
that's true. And I'm actually intrigued by the Jaws thing, but
I am as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, has anybody read any of these S.E. Hinton books? My daughter, 2 years ago, had to read The Outsiders, and I think it's a book whose time has definitely passed for this generation.
S.E. Hinton actually wrote that when she was 15 and 16. She had it published when she was 18.
Yeah.
He mentioned that he had to read them all for school, but he loved them all. Those actually, my school never had me read any of those, so I never did.
Yeah.
I only read The Outsiders for school, and that's it.
I don't think I even read The Outsiders. It was very popular amongst my babysitters.
Well, the movie was definitely, because it had all. This is Tom Cruise before, before stardom hit.
Oh yeah, Tom Cruise, Ralph Macchio, Matt Dillon.
Matt Dillon, yeah.
Yep.
Kurt Russell.
And also
not
C.
Kurt
Thomas
Russell,
Howell.
Patrick Swayze.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Stay gold, Pony Boy. What's interesting too, when you think about it, I'm not sure about That Was Then, This Is Now. I can't remember who directed. I'm going to look that up in a second. But The Outsiders and Rumblefish were both directed by Francis Ford Coppola. So it does kind of add to that extra.
Yeah, oh yes, I did.
Also,
I did hear about that.
Definitely gives it a lot of cachet then.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I'm pulling that up right now because I think that Rumblefish is also Coppola. And it was shot in black and white.
I believe that was then. This is now. No. Tex was Disney.
Tex was Disney. And directed by nobody I've ever heard of before. And then let me just go look up. That Was Then, This Is Now. And I think that one is Christopher Kane. Not familiar with who that is either, but yeah, no, that's a really good call out. But I agree. The books the stories don't have anything to do with one another, but they're definitely shot in the same, they're like told in the same universe that they could just kind of cross over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's move on to we're going to break this up. We've got the good, we got the bad, we got the mixed bag, but I do want to talk about one thing real quick, and that is the Twilight Award for shit books that were turned into terrible movies. And we'll start with the Twilight Saga.
Oh, I hear some of you out there, folks. You're saying, but the story's over. It was barely a story, but it's indisputably over. Yes, I agree, but if you've watched this long, it's assumed that you're a teenage girl who really wants to meet a sweet vampire boy herself, and this is just more marshmallow on your sundae. So take out your spoon and gobble it up. Sweet marshmallowy goodness.
No redeeming quality whatsoever.
Oh my God. Pablum.
Oh God, awful movies. Ugh.
I mean, I
and even though
watch.
I don't know what's worse, the book or the movie.
Twilight.
I didn't want to.
Yeah.
I didn't want to watch them and didn't want to read the books, so I didn't. So I can't really take for certain one way or the other.
Okay.
All right. Well, then, I have read all of the books. I have watched all of the movies because I had a dear late friend of mine from Second Life was into them, and they are cheeseball fanfic, for Mormonism.
Yeah.
If you didn't know that, that's what it is. And I've read them. The books are better. I think it's partly because the actors, some of the actors weren't great. When the movies came out, people are like, "Oh, I'm Team Edward. Oh, I'm Team Jacob." I'm like, Bella's dad was pretty cool in the books, and he's really great in the movies. I am Team Bella's dad. I'm also not a teenager. I'm going to tell... I kind of like her dad.
Yeah. So there is this great bit from Matt Inman's cartoon, The Oatmeal, who explains Twilight. And he says this. First off, the author, Stephanie Meyer, creates a main character which is an empty shell. Her appearance isn't described in detail that way. Any female could slip into it and easily fantasize about being this person. I read 400 pages of that book and barely had any idea what the main character looked like. As far as I was concerned, she was a giant Lego brick. Appearance aside, her personality is portrayed as insecure, fumbling, and awkward, a combination anyone who has ever went through puberty can relate to. By creating this empty shell, the character becomes less of a person and more of something a female reader can put and wear. Because I forgot her name, I think it was Barbara or Brando or something like that. I'm going to refer to her as Pants from here on out.
Brando.
And there's And then
Brain
there's
goes far
a
now.
cartoon that says, I'm sad because my life is hard and because I'm not even a real character. Introducing Pants. So after a few chapters of listening to Pants, whine about high school, sucking at volleyball, and being the center of attention, the second major character is introduced. Imagine everything a lady might want in a man, then exaggerate it by 10,000. And you've got Edward Cullen. The level of detail that the author goes into while describing Edward's appearance is remarkable. At one point, while reading, I started counting the number of times the author used the expression Edward's perfect face, and it was far into double digits. The author excruciatingly details his muscular pecs, clothing, hair, eye color, even his goddamn breath. I'm not joking. And there's a cartoon of Edward. I'm here for you, babe. Look at me. I'm so pretty. Also known as He-Man. Jesus Christ.
Let me remember that this is in a first person writing style, right?
Yes.
Okay. Let's do remember that.
Right. But still, it's I remember
people don't talk about themselves when they're writing in their diary.
Right. But one thing that was pointed out to me.
I'm 5'9", well, 5'8 3/4 if I want to be honest. I have blue eyes and brown hair. No, nobody does that.
So one of the things that was described to me about one of the books is when Edward breaks up with Bella. And this is coming from a friend of mine. Actually, it's our friend Brian Dermody's wife, Marla, who said that when Edward breaks up with Bella in one of the books, there is 5 or 6 pages of nothing but blank sheets of paper. Because Bella cannot be defined outside of her relationship with a man.
Which is a very Mormon thing to do.
This whole thing.
That is true. And I long ago dumped my Twilight books in a donate your books here locker, so I don't know.
Oh, I almost thought you were going to say landfill. But okay, that's a...
No.
That's fair.
All right. So, yeah, neither of them are any good. Fortunately... Yes,
look, if you want a good vampire series that got turned into other media, the Suki Stackhouse series.
It's okay,
right? But those get turned into TV.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm saying. That's why I said
good TV up until that last season.
Yeah, well, yeah, we'll forget about the last season.
Yeah. But even like Interview with the Vampire, if you want to get on to like the Lestat series being turned into movies, the movies are so disjointed because there's never one. It never had like one director at the helm to show their vision. So you've got Interview with the Vampire, which is actually a pretty good movie, and I feel like it hasn't deterred in age. But then the next movie in that series to come out was Queen of the Damned, and that was like 6 years later, and it just looked like shit.
They recast everybody.
It just, and I mean, Anne Rice had a pretty tight stranglehold on that series, but it never got off the ground. And I'd be really interested now that she's no longer with us, if somebody picks up the books and go, okay, we're going to do this again. And we're going to do it right. And we're actually going to find a Lestat that actually looks like Lestat and is young enough to be able to pull off a few movies beforehand.
Actually, that does kind of beg the question. Outside of Twilight and Interview with the Vampire, are there any franchises that are like based around vampire characters? I'm not talking like
Underworld.
Huh?
The Underworld series.
Oh. Yeah, okay, that's a good call. They're not based on books, though.
Right.
No, they're not based on books.
But you failed to clarify that, Mike.
What's Joe bringing up?
He's shouting about the World of Darkness base books, which the Underworld kind of cops on, but then we're talking about Vampire the Kindred TV show, and that's outside of the bounds of this discussion.
Yeah, I mean, there've been a few werewolf series book series made into movies, but I can't think of too many vampire ones.
Yeah, interesting. And no Frankenstein.
Yeah,
it's not like there's any romantic Frankenstein movies.
Well, Bride of Frankenstein.
That's because they haven't done Dean Koontz's Frankenstein books as theatrical release movies. I think they did a mini series about it, but they're terrible.
Okay.
Like the very first of Dean Koontz's Frankenstein was decent, and then everything else after that was crap.
Fair.
Cool. All right. So Mike wants to nominate in the Twilight Award for shit books that were turned into terrible
Or even
movies.
worse than Twilight's.
50 Shades of Grey, which by
was-
the way, was essentially written as Twilight fan fiction.
Yeah.
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 No, not essentially. Literally.
Yeah.
Literally
you could tell by the quality of the grammar.
Oh God.
It's not even the quality of grammar. The author, E.L. James, has admitted it started out as fanfic.
Just took the vampire out of it and just made it all about bondage.
Yes. It was about, her, she is just subject to this guy. And if you're writing blog post fanfic and somebody's like, here's $1 gazillion for book deals and movies, are you going to say no?
No, of course not.
No.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's just,
I would just write it under a pen name so nobody knows I'd written to such dreck.
Well, yeah, but then, it's like when they write checks to Spider-Man, who's going to be able to cash them? Seriously though, I feel like 50 Shades of Grey. Well, first of all, I remember when the first book came out, and it was just like you could just tell people that were reading it out in public were very much the kind of people that were, who had the excitement of just being able to just lean into the dryer during the spin cycle, just a little too much.
They like the detachable shower head.
Yeah. It's like that, Mike. It's like that Sklar Brothers bit about the woman, Barbara, going to Cars Land at Disneyland. What's your name, little racer? Barbara.
Ciao.
Ciao.
She approaches the car, and the car's like, "Who's my little racer?" And she's like, "Barbara." Awesome. How old are you? I'm 49. Ka-chow! What's going on? Well, I stopped cooking for myself. Just got too sad to keep clearing the leftovers out of the fridge 3 days after I make something because cookbooks don't make portions for one person. I found that out the hard way. Awesome! What else is going on? Well, if we're being honest, it's been about 3 years since I've had a vaginal orgasm. Like, that even though they were pre-recorded messages, I could feel the car wanting to extract itself from the conversation. Be like, all right, I gotta go fuel up back in the garage. But you just came from the garage. Yeah, next time, bring your niece.
God.
But the other thing, too, is the perception of this. I feel like it's very obvious based on, like, just kind of like the public perception I've heard. There has not been a single man who has ever read these books because I think they think it's something completely different. And I saw something once, and I don't know why this stuck with me because, my brain is just like a lawless wasteland. But it's like, women are out there reading 50 Shades of Grey, but you won't take a thumb in the butt. It's like, really? What? What is that?
Wait, whoa, what?
Wait a second. I don't even think we're talking about the same book anymore.
That doesn't sound like cause and effect there.
Yeah, seriously. I don't think these things have anything to do with each other.
Okay. Man, talk about a logical fallacy.
Oh my God. Yeah, but again, these are like the same dude bros though that are like defending Ron Jeremy now. It's like, how could you be sexually harassing if you're on a porn set? Oh God.
Stop.
Sit down.
Also,
I'll get you some cocoa and I'll explain what consent is.
Oh, they're not going to get that because they're watching too much Jordan Peterson.
Oh God. Well, it's very tough because it's hard to have been a man in this world, you sons of bitches. That is my best Jordan Peterson. I'm sorry. It's astounding me that anyone can pronounce bin, like the word bin, by actually hitting the double E on there. It just doesn't make sense to me. He literally
and
is
of course,
like
Ben Shapiro's Dr. Wife, who told him that it's unnatural for a woman to get wet.
I love that thing that I know I sent it to you all about the big, fat bottom girls, which just like offend him so much because again, it's just another reminder that he can't sexually please his wife.
His wife has told him it's weird if he does. So
oh god, yeah, I can't imagine. But he also fantasizes about his sister too. I know we're going off on a tangent here, but he like literally, if you've seen Benny Schaff's sister, it's like, nope. Oh god, yeah. Oh, so. Have fun looking that up. You'll see what I mean. So anyway, back to 50 Shades of Grey. Yeah, I haven't seen the movies, but I've heard nobody liked the movies. I actually don't think even people who like the book series like the movies.
I believe the author forced them to hire her husband as the director of the second one because she didn't like how the first one turned out.
Oh, and Lord. The first one's the only one that made money.
Yeah, and so she got them to hire her husband as the director because she could tell him what to do.
Oh
boy.
God.
Yeah.
Wow. This is my shock
I didn't
face.
hear any of that, but yeah.
All right. So before we hit the good and the bad, I think we need to just take a straight shot down the middle here in the mixed bag category. And we're going to start with Ian Fleming's James Bond series. I'm a huge James Bond movie fan. I have never read a book. I've never read an Ian Fleming novel.
It wasn't until I was well into adulthood that I realized that that James Bond was based on a book character. I was like, wait a minute, you mean there's actual novels? Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. Hey, guess what? They have fuck all to do with the movies that you've been watching.
Right, exactly. That's the other thing that blew my mind. Is like they have absolutely, except for maybe the first Casino. Well, not even the first Casino Royale, because the first Casino Royale was a comedy. But David.
Oh no, it wasn't actually. So here's the beauty of Casino Royale. There were 3 versions of Casino Royale. There was a TV version where they made James Bond, Jimmy Bond, made him American. Barry Nelson was James Bond.
Which one's the one with David Niven?
That's the second Casino Royale. That's the one where
that's the funny one.
Yeah, that's the funny one where Peter Sellers was such a pain in the ass that they fired him and then threw in David Niven and Woody Allen. And then there was the amazing Casino Royale with Daniel Craig, which is, for me, it's on TV. Everything stops now.
Yeah, I'm watching this one.
Yeah, but I think that's the only book in the series that kind of keeps the plot.
Now, am I wrong? I was led to understand that Ian Fleming's books were sort of being a send-up of the genre. And so the movies being silly up until the Daniel Craig era was actually more in line with the books? Or am I wrong on this?
Hard for me to say, because again, I haven't read the books.
Yeah, it's because I don't know that you really could say that the early Sean Connery ones were send-ups. I mean, they were given the time.
Yeah. I mean, you've got preposterous stuff going on with the characters and whatnot. I mean, it's not full on Austin Powers wacky, it's
the plots themselves were
serious.
The plots themselves were outlandish, but it wasn't like there's a clear delineation between in the silliness when you get to Roger Moore, where it bordered on parody with the Roger Moore.
Animals doing double takes.
Whereas with
double take, Katherine, a pigeon did a double take.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that killed the conversation dead.
It was also a reflection of but they were kind of a reflection of the fear of the the early Cold War. So So it wasn't so much a send up in the way that the Roger Moore James Bond was.
Yeah. So
and plus, I mean, Ian Fleming himself was an actual spy. So
yeah.
At least he claims he was a spy.
He
think
claims.
It's still kind of suspect as exactly how much actual spy work he did.
Well, I know he did the kind of like base elements of James Bond on himself, and I'm fairly certain he was a fairly decent sized womanizer.
Oh, he was a rampant misogynist.
Yeah.
That's why he probably was giggling his ass off when he's writing names like Pussy Galore. Oh, that's so funny.
He actually toned that down for James Bond.
Exactly. Well, because that's the thing. I think in the original Goldfinger, Pussy Galore is a lesbian that that Bond turns straight, with the power of his 00 dick. It's just like...
Yeah. And it's only implied that in the movie.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, you know what?
Well,
Let's face it. With the amount of vodka martinis that guy drinks, he suffers from whiskey dick at least once out of every 3 times.
Well, it turns out that they had invented Viagra way before they made it available to the public.
Yeah.
So the CIA and MI6 was giving it out to their agents just so they, for their honey traps.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There wasn't cyanide in his watch.
Yep. Oh, do be serious, 007. Here, take this. How do you feel? How does your heart feel? Well, my heart feels fine, but oh boy, what's going on down there? He's got a rocket in his pocket. That was reserved for the Roger Moore Bonds because I would never put that above a Roger Moore movie to make that joke.
Exactly.
He's attempting re-entry. Oh boy. So let's move on from the silliness.
Hold on 1 second before we move on. I do have to make a slight correction.
Yes.
I looked it up just to be sure. E.L. James did not force the studio to hire her husband as the director of the 2 sequels.
Okay.
She forced them to hire her husband as the writer, the screenwriter.
Oh God.
Of the 2 sequels.
Oh. Okay, so totally normal behavior then. I got you, Mike. I appreciate that correction.
I just wanted to make it certain because James Foley is not married to E.L. James.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on from one spy to another, kind of, and that is the Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan movies. That includes The Hunt for Red October, Patriot Games, Clear and Present Danger, The Sum of All Fears.
The most brilliant commander in the Soviet Navy.
Ramey has trained most of their officer corps. He's nearly a legend in the submarine community.
The most deadly submarine ever built.
This thing could park a couple of 100 warheads off Washington. Nobody'd know a thing about it until it was all over.
And once more, we play our dangerous game with our old adversaries, the American Navy.
His plan is a mystery.
A man with your responsibilities reading about the end of the world.
Apparently, he has suffered a kind of nervous breakdown in which he announced his intention to fire his missiles on the United States.
You want us to help you hunt him down, kill him?
Open the outer doors, firing point procedures. We sail into history.
I'm gonna blow him right to Mars.
Ramius might be trying to defect.
You're just an analyst. What can you possibly know what goes on in this mind?
I'll give you 3 days to prove your theory correct.
Pretty sure that's it for movies. And then there's the series on Amazon, which is different.
Yeah, which I think I haven't watched it yet.
Which one was the Ben Affleck one?
Some of All Fears.
Some of All Fears.
Some of Fears, okay.
Hunt for Red October is Alec Baldwin. Patriot Games and Clear and Present Danger, Harrison Ford. And Some of All Fears is Affleck.
Yeah.
Now, I've never seen Some of All Fears, so I can't speak on that one. Patriot Games and Clear and Present Danger are good, but honestly, I would watch Hunt for Red October any day, all day.
Yeah, Hunt for Red October is like Andy said. It's one of those. It's on TV. Oh, I'm not changing the channel anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is an excellent
Hunt for Red
movie.
October is good. Yeah, and that's embraces more of the nerdy, analyst part of Jack Ryan. You know, when they got Harrison Ford, he had to become more actiony.
Yeah,
right. And that's a big issue I have with the movies. Is like, I liked Clear and Present Danger. I don't really remember Patriot Games all that much, but it's only because the Hunt for Red October was perfectly cast.
I just know that Sean Bean got killed. Dies off.
Patriot Games. Sean Bean dies.
Hey, spoiler!
It's not a spoiler. Sean Bean dies. That is not a spoiler.
And water is wet. I know.
Yeah, it's more of a spoiler if Sean Bean doesn't die.
Well, the great thing about the great thing about the Hunt for Red October is that it's a great political thriller and drama.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to rely on action sequences on stuff like that, and it's very much a reflection of the Tom Clancy style of books and writing. That if you read a Tom Clancy book, and I've read a couple in college because military school, they're very much in the weed technical details and political drama. It's very little.
You could build a submarine by reading those books. I mean, they're just really
exactly.
Oh no way! There is no way that you can't hear people singing on a submarine from another submarine. But it's in the book too.
But to Joe's point, though, that's what Tom Clancy was writing, and so the evolution of the Ryan character from just being
a CIA analyst,
for the CIA, to even like with Harrison Ford being just kind of like that liaison caught in the middle of stuff, to then all of a sudden it's just like balls to the wall action, where John Krasinski is fighting rebels in Venezuela because apparently we thought we were going to war with Venezuela at some point.
Right, and it's best encapsulated in Hunt for October when Jack is at the controls and he goes to the captain. He says, "I'm just an analyst. I don't go out in the field. I just write reports.
I write books. Books for the CIA."
Yeah, and then they made him into Harrison Ford and became like, I'm a super spy. No, you're not. You're an analyst.
Well, no, but you know what? The thing with Harrison Ford, it wasn't too bad with Harrison Ford because Harrison, aside of like Indy and Han Solo and maybe The Fugitive, he's always got this awkwardness about him as an action hero that it feels off on him in a certain kind of way.
Yeah.
He does slip down a slope in Clear and Present Danger. He's trying to follow the actual action guy, and he like slips down the slope. Doesn't hurt himself, but they get a little bit of that in there. But they do have him more involved in action than he ought to be.
Right. But it's almost like
Patriot Games,
he's caught in the middle.
Right. That's a feeling you get in like Patriot Games is like he's very much out of his element, but they're still forcing him to be an action hero, which didn't.
Right.
Work. I guess it worked for the character at that moment, but like you said, Jack Ryan works best when he's just an analyst.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Were you guys aware that there was a Chris Pine was Jack Ryan in a movie?
Yes. I forgot.
I totally forgotten about it until I was on, I think it was Stars. And they had recommendations, and it was because you watch Muppets Take Manhattan, and the first tile was Jack Ryan. It was the Chris Pine Jack Ryan movie, and I'm like, well, I guess if I like the Muppets Take Manhattan, I'm gonna love this one.
Hey, that's why Chris Pine is the best, Chris.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
That is true.
Hold on one more moment.
Oh dear.
We just got some more feedback from Jonna.
Oh, you got some from Jonna? Go ahead. Go for it.
She just posted like 11 minutes ago. And unfortunately, she also didn't get this assignment. She got LA Confidential by James Ellroy, an adaptation to a very good movie. The Black Dahlia by James Ellroy, terrible movie adaptation. And then Silence of the Lambs, great.
Okay, so first off, Jonna, thank you. I actually had mentioned those at the top of the show. LA Confidential is part of the LA trilogy, but because LA Confidential was a critical and Oscar darling, it wasn't a financial darling. James Ellroy is next to impossible to adapt. So I appreciate that because LA Confidential is one of my favorite movies of all time. As I mentioned, Black Dahlia, awful, just dreadful. The book's not that great either, but the Silence of the Lambs, I'm glad you brought that up, Jonna, because the Thomas Harris Hannibal Lecter series is a series of really good books. I mean, we all know that the movie Silence of the Lambs is one of the most lauded horror movies of all time, but you've got
Manhunter. Manhunter's not
Manhunter with Brian Cox.
Yeah, I will say this:
Manhunter.
Manhunter is way better than its remake, Red Dragon.
Yes.
Yeah, Manhunter was good, and I can't remember the name of. Was the book named Red Dragon, and they called it Manhunter for the movie?
The book was Red Dragon. Right. The movie was Manhunter, with Brian Cox as Hannibal Lecter, which is really weird seeing him.
That works.
30, 40 years younger. He's excellent.
Yeah.
And then you moved on to Silence of the Lambs. After Silence of the Lambs, Thomas Harris wrote Hannibal, which is. It's weird. Like, I can never remember if I like the movie, and then I start watching the movie and remind myself, oh, yeah, I don't like this movie.
Yeah, no.
That whole scene where, Ray Liotta's drugged up and Lecter, pops the top of his skull off, and he's like, I'm just going to cook some of this brain now.
Yeah.
But Silence of the Lambs is actually a reasonably faithful adaptation of the book.
Yeah.
And I love the movie. Absolutely love the movie. So thank you, John, for bringing those up, and thanks for getting it in on time. Excellent. So let's move on now to the bad. These are the book adaptations that were so bad they just destroyed any potential they had to do a series. And we're going to start.
Here's a series. Let's kill it with this movie.
Yes, exactly. We're going to start with the Golden Compass, which is based on His Dark Materials books. Honestly, HBO has put out an amazing miniseries that is 1,000 times better than the Golden Compass. The Golden Compass itself is it's confusing. It really is. It needed that long form telling, and you simply cannot do that in a 2.5 hour long movie.
Yeah, no, the oh my god, the books are so weird. I did the book. I still have yet to watch the miniseries. I read the books, and then a friend of mine accidentally bought a Blu-ray of the Golden Compass and gave it to me, and I watched it, and I'm like, well, that happened.
Yeah,
it was okay, but they were so slavish to the Dark Materials that they didn't do a good job explaining it.
Yeah.
They're like, if you've read the books, you're gonna get this, and if you haven't read the books, good luck.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry to leave you. You didn't do the reading beforehand. There was reading to be done before this.
Yeah.
Didn't that star James Bond?
Yes, Daniel Craig.
Daniel Craig.
Nicole Kidman.
Yep.
Never saw it.
Okay, you're better off watching the show. The show is just so much better.
Yeah, don't waste your time.
Yeah, don't waste your time with the movie.
Fair enough.
So Divergent is the next one up here. This is based on the dystopian YA novels. This was a series that had it out of the gate was hot because it was coming on the heels of the Hunger Games. And then the second movie kind of came and went, and the third movie was so bad it was unreleasable. They ended up releasing it direct to home video.
No,
I started reading the books and they're bad. I don't think I've ever seen them. I think I've seen clips from the movies, but I started reading the book and was like, this is shit, and put it down.
Yeah.
And I've read Hunger Games a number of times, and I've read the prequel book. But yeah, Divergent is, everybody that has a bitch about the Hunger Games, they mean Divergent.
Yeah, yeah, and wasn't like Shailene Woodley supposed to be like the next Jennifer Lawrence because of it? That never really kind of panned out for her.
Yeah,
it
definitely did not. It did not work. And there's like the entire series just it's almost like the trajectory of Steven Seagal movies, where they started hot, #1 movie for 2 weeks at the box office. Second one is just like, okay, it came, hit #1, didn't make nearly as much as its first movie on its opening weekend, just disappeared. And now all of a sudden they're like, they show up on Showtime, and you're like, oh, I didn't know they made another one of these.
Oh, this was a thing?
yeah. It was a thing. They had Kate Winslet and stuff, but yeah, the books got greenlit because of Hunger Games, and the movies got greenlit because of Hunger Games, and they just but like the character, the main character is obsessing about which boy she likes from the get-go, and it was just like, I'm out.
Yeah, it's almost like the main character being female is like, it's her only agency is to find a guy.
Right.
Interesting.
So who wrote the Divergent series?
Oh, you're gonna make me pull up Wikipedia now, aren't you?
Well, I'm just kind of curious, because if that's her only real goal, then that sounds like, sounds like it was a male author.
No.
Veronica wrote the books.
No, a lot of these young adult dystopian young adult books are written by females. By women.
They're written by women, and I don't know
Veronica Roth.
Yeah, and what her inclinations are. If she's like Stephanie Meyer, where it's like she's not allowed to be, based on the confines of, in Stephanie Meyer's case, the Church of Latter-day Saints, the Mormons, where she's really not allowed to do a whole lot else. So she writes these really chaste, romance novels that, just revolve around the girl being there for her every man.
It's not only that. It's not only that. The whole vampire thing in the Twilight books is because you're going to be with this person forever because of the beliefs of Mormonism. And so that's the whole eternity thing of the vampires.
Fair.
That's very true. That's very fair.
And let's talk about Jacob imprinting on their daughter.
And you know what? We didn't even bring up the fact.
Let's just make a bad face, and let's not.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of bad faces, the face of that baby in that movie. Like, they actually CG'd a baby face that looks so just disconcerting. It's like I'd rather look at the obvious baby doll that they used in American Sniper. Oh yeah, deep in the weeds. Movie podcast, everybody. All right, going back to some of the bad now. Another movie that was so confusing it killed the series is A Series of Unfortunate Events. I was so rip shit with this movie. Absolutely rip shit with this movie.
That was Jim Carrey, right?
Yes.
That was the Jim Carrey one.
Yeah. It's based on the first 3 books in the Series of Unfortunate Events. Series of 13 books. Yep. They took the first 3, but had to find a way to tie them kind of back and forth together. But the whole thing, to me, I feel is upended by the unsanctioned buffoonery of Jim Carrey.
That's possible, but like, yeah, I didn't watch it. I I started reading a series of unfortunate events because I was winding through the bookstore to buy my copy of the final book of the Harry Potter series, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. And I picked up a copy of Lemony Snicket and started reading it and was like, all right, I'm going to buy this on my way out too. Because I went to the midnight release of Harry Potter Book 7.
Yeah.
I think I did too. No, and I ordered on Amazon, so I got it the next day.
Okay. But the thing with the books is that they're great. They're bite-sized. And for novels, they're bite-sized. They're all roughly about 150 pages in length, 13 chapters, which is really it's very easy to read Lemony Snicket's work. But they're clever, and they don't, they actually don't speak down to kids. There's a lot of great wordplay in there. And this movie is just like they get the settings right, but because they got to let Jim Carrey play all these different characters, it just, sorry to say, it becomes the Jim Carrey show and not the story of the Baudelaire orphans.
Right.
And
which is completely wrong.
Right.
Yeah,
and that's the thing, is that
Count
Olaf is
a foil.
Yeah. Olaf's a foil. He's not the main character of the stories. And I'll give a lot of credit to Neil Patrick Harris for the Netflix show that he does pull back.
Yep.
He makes his appearances, but he pulls back enough that the kids get to shine.
Yeah, he knows his role.
Yeah. So, Joe, have you seen a series of unfortunate events, or read them?
I have not, and I have not read the book, so
I
have nothing worthwhile to offer on this.
Okay. Well, moving on to something else, I have nothing to really say.
I remember a friend of mine was like, "These books are depressing." A friend of mine was reading the books, is like, "They're so depressing," and I'm like, "Did you not?"
Did we not what?
Read the title. My friend that was like, these Lemony Snicket books are so sad, and I'm like, and nothing ends well, and I'm like, did you not read that they are a series of unfortunate events? And she was like, yeah, you got a good point.
Yeah, exactly. They even say at the very beginning, this story does not end well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but speaking of things that don't end well, The Maze Runner. I've never read the books. I haven't seen the movies. All I can say is, oh, The Hunger Games did well. Is this dystopian? There we go.
Yeah, the first, I did read the first book on, well, I listened to it on audio from the library, so I didn't pay a cent.
Yeah.
And it was interesting. The concept was interesting. It was kind of like Hunger Games meets Lord of the Flies kind of thing. But I haven't bothered with the movie.
Yeah. So let's move on. Now, Mike, you put the Black Cauldron on here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which isn't live action, but definitely an unbelievably shit representation of the book series.
Yeah, again, if 4 books, let's take the first, 2.5, and let's cram them into 1 hour-and-a-half animated movie.
The only good thing to come out of that is the Horned King, because he actually goes out like a badass. He goes out like a boss in that movie. He is dispatched off camera in the book.
Yeah,
that's all I can say about this.
Voiced by John Hurt also doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt.
Right. But we will definitely go further into depth into the Black Cauldron when we talk about animated movies based on books, because there are several. There's quite a few of them.
Yeah. Last Unicorn.
Yep. All right, and then finally we have the Da Vinci Code. Yeah. So
Dan Brown had a moment and made a moment of it.
He did.
The only thing that stands out about the movie series is Tom Hanks' hair. Oh my God.
So I feel like Dan Brown is to the early 2000s what John Grisham was to the 90s.
That's fair.
The Dan Brown books, here's the best way I can describe the Dan Brown books. They are great toilet reading because the chapters are 5 pages in length.
Yeah, they are the James Patterson for. He's a dollar store James Patterson, I guess is the best way I could put it.
Yeah, he's a more successful. Yeah.
The James Patterson sucks too. No, it was.
That's what I said.
Yeah, no, Da Vinci Code. That was like mandatory airport reading for a time.
Yeah, I did pick up the Da Vinci Code and I read it and I was like, wow, I've been reading for like 5 minutes. I'm already like 20 chapters in. Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, this is insane.
But I don't know what's sadder though, the books and the fact that there are some people who actually took that shit seriously.
Joe, you listen to Knowledge
You know what?
Fight.
I listen to. I know.
Where
I
the
listen to
hole so we
Knowledge
can
Fight.
go down.
Okay. You know what? I take that back.
Yeah, there's a Rubicon that can be crossed at every angle.
Yeah.
But yeah, the funny thing is too, like, so the movie The Da Vinci Code comes out, which is actually the second book in the series, and it's a huge. The movie is a huge hit.
Yeah.
And it's sold on Tom Hanks and his amazing hair.
And Ron Howard's directing.
Yeah, that's true. Ron Howard directed all 3 of them.
Yeah.
So then I have to pull this book up because I can't remember it.
Angels and Demons.
Angels and Demons, which came out 3 years before, and the movie came out like 4 or 5 years after.
Right.
Da Vinci Code.
With Ewan McGregor.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ewan McGregor and The Vision.
Oh yeah.
Paul Bettany. Yes.
Paul Bettany. Yeah.
Paul Bettany.
And then after that,
Inferno.
I'm just seeing there's another book in between here called The Lost Symbol, which I don't think was ever released as a book. And then Inferno was released, and I barely remember that being released as a movie. Like, it just, people lost interest really fast.
Yeah, I believe
they realized they were reading crap.
Both Da Vinci Code and I believe Angels and Demons made some pretty good bank.
Yeah.
Inferno, I don't know what that one did.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I think Angels and Demons didn't nearly touch how well the Da Vinci Code did, but that's because the Da Vinci Code was really in that sweet spot.
Yeah.
Where people were talking about the book and talking about the movie.
Yeah, but you know what? Credit to Dan Brown for taking his money and fucking off and not turning into Scott Adams.
Oh God, yeah, thank God for that.
Fair enough.
Yep.
I mean, come on. When's the last time you've heard Dan Brown? I mean, come on, really.
Oh, that's true. And I'm sure he's got some wild stuff that will make your eyes go crossed.
Yeah, I mean, but he's got, like I said, he's got his money. He's happy. I'm like,
exactly.
Whatever.
Yeah, he's his
like,
opinions to himself.
You know,
he's like Tom from MySpace. He's like, I got my money. I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Da Vinci Code pulled
He might also have just written that stuff because it was hot at the moment. He might not believe that crap.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, who knows?
Da Vinci Code pulled in $760 million on a $125 million budget.
Wow.
So yeah, they're
good.
Man, the residuals on that. Oof.
Yeah, Angels and Demons. Let's see what that one do. That one, $150 million budget. Box office $485. So like a $250 million drop there.
Oof.
And then Inferno. Well, they dropped the budget to 75, and the box office dropped to 220.
Ugh.
So they still made money, but that's a good place to call it end.
Yeah, and that's a good place for Dan Brown to go just fuck off and do, just do his own thing.
Yeah.
Right.
So, all right. Well, let's move on now to the good ones. And I'm going to start here with kind of I just want to allude to this one because technically speaking, it's only one book has been filmed, and that's Dune.
What did you see? There's a crusade coming. Do you often dream things that happen just as you dreamed them? Yes. The test is simple. Remove your hand from the box, and you die.
What's in the box?
Pain. You inherit too much power. You have proven you can rule yourself. Now you must learn to rule others. Something none of your ancestors learned.
My father rules an entire planet.
He's losing it.
He's getting a richer one.
He'll lose that one too.
It's been made into a movie twice. Part 2 of the Denis Villeneuve series is coming out later this year. But if there's any potential for them to delve into the series, you're not going to see it go beyond Children of Dune, because if they put
it gets
God
weird.
Emperor Dune into the theaters, people are going to revolt.
Well, it's weird. It gets weird. Yeah.
You have to love Dune. And I love Dune. I wouldn't mind seeing God Emperor Dune on the big screen, but just like the horny man-worm god just is not going to work for a general audience. It really isn't.
Yeah, no. Sci-Fi Channel got through Dune. What came after Dune?
They did Dune and Children of Dune, but Children of Dune is technically Dune Messiah and Children of Dune combined.
Yeah. That's what I'm going to say, was that they called it Children of Dune, but I was informed that it was also Dune Messiah, and that's James McAvoy.
Yeah,
is the Dune Messiah, which, like, I was watching it. I was watching other things. I'm like, you look familiar, and I looked him up, and I'm like, son of a bitch,
Professor X.
Yep.
You're little Atreides. Oh, okay.
Yep. I watched that series in full when I was high on OxyContin after my vasectomy, and just hanging out, frozen bag of peas on my bits, and watching the Dune series. So more information than you absolutely needed.
Yeah,
absolutely. That was more information than I needed.
I bought the DVDs for all of them, and I gotta say, for a Sci-Fi Channel special, that first Dune had a bit more eroticism than I was expecting it would.
Oh, yeah, those books are insanely horny.
It was Sci-Fi Channel. It was not Sci-Fi.
Yeah.
It was Sci-Fi. It was before it became Sci-Fi.
Yeah.
Because Sci-Fi made shit movies. Sci-Fi Channel had good movies and good TV series, and also they had their cheese.
Eureka.
Sci-Fi is just cheese.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sci-Fi was like, oh, you like Sharknado? How about nothing else?
Hey, Sharknado 5, anybody? Yeah?
Oh, good Lord.
Oh, God.
But anyway, yeah.
All
But that
right.
wasn't theatrically released, so we're moving on.
We're not really talking about that. But what we can talk about is kind of like what spawned so many magical children book series and movie series, and that is the Harry Potter series.
Did you ever make anything happen? Anything you couldn't explain? You're a wizard, Harry.
I'm a what? Dear Mr. Potter, we are pleased to inform you that you have been accepted at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry.
In a few moments, you will pass through these doors and join your classmates.
Keep an eye on the staircases. They like to change.
I don't know if I'm in the minority here when I say this. I think the movies are a lot better than the books. And I'm disqualifying Sorcerer's Stone and Chamber of Secrets because I think the movies are shit because Chris Columbus is not a good special effects director.
Yeah, but you see, the thing is, Andy, I agree with you that, well, it's kind of complicated, but you don't have the Harry Potter series movies if it wasn't for Christopher Columbus being as faithful to the books as he was with Chamber of Secrets and the Sorcerer's Stone.
Yeah,
true.
That is the thing, is like you can't really say that the first two movies are better or worse than the books because they're essentially the same thing.
They're faithful, right? And you needed that for the series to be successful.
He was faithful to a fault, and that's kind of his detriment.
But again, you needed that for the first two movies, and it worked because if you read the first two books, they're breezy reads.
Yeah,
you can go through them fairly quickly. The Harry Potter series really doesn't start getting sophisticated until the third, and especially the four. Yeah. Four really kind of gets sophisticated, and you can see that reflected with the choice of, Alfonso Cuarón as the director.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, now they're taking it a little bit more seriously, and it works because they don't have to be faithful, because the fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh books are so dense.
Yeah.
That you need to be able to convey the themes of the books without getting bogged down in its details, which they did with the movies.
And that's the thing. David Yates was the perfect director for this because he was able to just encapsulate the Cliff Notes version of what we needed. And out of all the movies, Order of the Phoenix is my favorite out of all the movies. It's the longest book and the shortest movie.
Yep.
And it's I think that's what we needed. So yes, I agree. I mean, you have to have those first two movies for them to be successful, and it also shows that there's a growth in the storytelling. Because we recently watched the two Deathly Hallows movies. I don't remember them being as good as I was like, wow, these movies are a lot better than I remember them being. And I like them.
Again, and that's also a reflection of the growing maturity of the actors themselves.
Yeah.
Of Dan, Emma, and Rupert really coming into their own as actors.
Right.
And, being able to, they know their characters because again, they've been playing them for, 10 to 15 years, I think. I don't remember,
It was essentially 10 years. It was 10 years. The whole movie series takes place over 10 years or filmed over 10 years.
Right.
You know what? In addition to those four, I'd also include Tom, the guy who played Malfoy.
Tom Felton.
Yes.
Oh, Tom Felton. Yep.
I mean,
they had two different Malfoys. The first one went on to play Joffrey.
No,
he didn't. No, it's always been Tom Felton.
That's always been Tom Felton.
Okay. I'm gonna trust you people with children as opposed to me who gave up on the Harry Potter movies halfway through.
It's funny because I watched all the Harry Potter movies before my kids came along.
Joffrey.
Soph was born what 2008, and I think the last movie came out in like 2012.
Yeah, 11. But yeah, no, Joffrey, the kid who played Joffrey was in Batman Begins, which was 2005. So.
Oh crap! Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the boy in the fire escape.
Yeah,
but
that's
Tom Felton's Draco, especially in the last movie, he actually showed a lot more depth than you would expect out of someone who was kind of a one-note villain for the first 5-6 movies.
Oh God!
It's also a reflection. Yeah, it's a reflection of his growth as a character in the books.
Yeah. It's also interesting too watching. You're talking about watching these kids grow as characters and just seeing the different character traits. The kid who played Neville, who turned out to actually be the most attractive out of all of them in real life. But I think it was the actor who played Crabbe. There's this great bit where he goes from being just like the fat side, evil sidekick, to actually trying to use the killing curse on Harry in the last movie.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I had never noticed that before. We're watching it. I'm like, oh shit. He actually was going to kill him. Goddamn Slytherin.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that we're not even mentioning what are the other two movies that came after?
The Oh, the Fantastic Beasts movies can
Fantastic
fuck
Beasts.
themselves.
Because they're awful.
They're awful.
Well, first, and also they're based on like, you know, side
A
projects
book within
that
a book.
JK. Yeah. Well, it's also J.K. Rowling wrote some side project books for like fundraisers.
Right.
I had those at one point. I think they're downstairs in the basement with my Harry Potter books.
Yeah. The thing is that like I remember, and I think this is where we can cap off the Harry Potter series here, is that when I watched with my kids, I watched that first Fantastic Beasts movie, and at the very end of it, my daughter goes, "Daddy, please never let us watch these movies again."
Yeah, I saw the first one and the second one in theaters.
Oh God!
The first one, I was like, I don't like this movie, but I like the four main characters. Their chemistry was kind of fun. And then the second one, they're like, "Oh, fuck that. We're just gonna make them all much different characters than they were, and completely drive them apart." I'm like, you just took the only thing I liked about the first one and ruined it. So fuck you.
I don't know. There's just something about Eddie Redmayne that makes my knee goes, I need to make contact with his balls. It's just like he's so annoying.
Oscar-winning Eddie Redmayne.
Oscar-winning Eddie Redmayne. Don't even get me started. But that's Harry Potter. It's almost like we did a podcast about this 12 years ago.
I don't remember that. No.
Yeah, we did. We covered the Harry Potter movies right on the cusp of the release of Deathly Hallows Part 2, because. And I will never forget this, Mike. And I say this when we know that there's a movie that is going to have a logical conclusion in the next movie. Remember when at the end of Part 1, Voldemort gets the Elder Wand. Yeah, some guy in Mike's screening of Part 1 was like, "That's bullshit," because they didn't complete the entire movie.
And, I was just like,
I do that all the time.
Part 1, right?
Yeah,
there's part 2 coming.
Yeah, it's not like they made it a secret. It's like, yeah.
Right. The end of The Hobbit, Unexpected Journey, Infinity War, Across the Spider-Verse. That's bullshit. So, you name it,
my
it's
mom
in there.
Yeah, I did, my mom was still going to movies when the first Hobbit movie came out. And I explained to her that there were 3 movies when, like, Smaug showed up at the very end and that was it. And she was like, "Oh, okay." But she didn't scream, "That's bullshit" at the screen. She was just like, "Is that it?"
It's just a fun little in joke. So let's move on to another huge hit series, The Hunger Games.
Welcome, welcome. The time has come to select one courageous young man and woman for the honor of representing District 12 in the 74th Annual Hunger Games.
It's your first year, Prim. Your name's only been in there once. They're not gonna pick you.
Primrose Everdeen.
Prim! I volunteer! I volunteer as tribute.
Our tributes, Peter Malark and Katniss Everdeen.
They just want a good show. That's all they want.
There's 24 of us, Gail. Only one comes out.
All right.
Now, I've read the books. I've seen the movies. I'll admit I like the books a lot better than I like the movies, only because I feel like the movies did that thing where, oh, hey, we can make more money making the final chapter into 2 books.
That was part of it. I mean, there's a lot to go on, but it's also you get so much more of the character from the books. Like the movies, you don't get the insight. This is why I hate the Martian movie. But the books, you really get a sense of Katniss, and the movies, you don't know how she thinks of herself and everybody else. You only see her from a third person point of view.
Right. I will say, though, where the movies succeed is that they did a great job building that world. They did a
the world building was fantastic.
Art direction,
world building's fantastic. Yeah, the costumes, the world building, the characters, like all the actors are great. Like when Jennifer Lawrence first got cast, like apparently all the Hunger Games fans were like, "But she's a blonde." And they're like, "It's okay. We're gonna make her a brunette. It's fine."
Yeah. There's this thing. It's a new invention. It's called hair dye, and if that doesn't work, we have another new invention called a wig.
Yeah, exactly.
My God, it's insane. It's been forever since I've watched these. Apparently, my son read the books, and I'm like, we should probably go watch the movies at some point. My daughter has no interest in this.
I've only seen the movies. I haven't read the books.
Okay, the books are actually really good, and the beauty is the books also kind of toilet reading. They're very short chapters.
Okay, I'll admit I've only done an audiobook.
Okay.
But the performance was great, and like it was intriguing, and I got like my mother was like, "You should read these," and she loaned it to me on her spare iPod. And I went through the whole thing, and I was like, "Really? That's how it ends?" And I've listened to the whole thing again immediately. And now it's one of my regular go-tos.
I'm kind of in Scarlett's camp. I have no interest.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. So one thing that we do have...
You're not dystopian.
No,
right.
I'm really not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just read them because it was something to do. All right, well, we've been alluding to this one because we've had some feedback on it, but we really haven't given our thoughts on it, and that's The Lord of the Rings.
Legend tells of a ring created by an ancient evil that gave its wearer the power to enslave the world. Believed lost for centuries, it has now been found.
Is it secret? Is it safe?
This is the One Ring, forged by the Dark Lord Sauron. Sauron needs only this ring to cover all the lands of a second darkness. He's seeking it. Seeking it all. His thought is bent on it.
No one knows it's here, do they? Do they, Gandalf?
Some of the best movies ever made, which I think it's an improvement on the books.
Yeah.
I think it could be argued that the Lord of the Rings series is the best movie adaptation of a book ever made, or a book series.
I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you because the books are long. You know, Tolkien never met an editor he listened to. You know, the movies also do a great job of steering away from all the anti-Semitism too. So there's that.
I can think of only maybe one.
Unlike Harry Potter.
Movie book adaptation that's better.
What's that?
Jaws.
Yeah. But that's a single book though. The movie is way better than the book.
Oh yeah. No, I know. I'm just talking in general because I
think if you want to say that if there's a movie series that faithfully adapts the book and does it better, I think you'd be hard pressed. You'd be hard pressed to say it's anything other than Lord of the Rings.
It both honors the source material and improves upon it by editing it down and making it more concise.
Right, because I mean, we're all nerds. We've all read Lord of the Rings. It's a slog. It is not an easy read.
Hey,
it's a slog in tiny print.
Yeah.
I've never been able to make it through all three books. I made it to like halfway through Return of the King, and I just kind of like dozed off.
That sound you hear, Mike, is me clutching my pearls right now.
I mean, I've read the books. I've tried to get the Silmarillion. And if anybody tells you that they've read the Silmarillion, they're lying. They're trying to get into your pants.
No. My coworker Aaron is just that big of a Lord of the Rings nerd.
Katherine, I was half expecting you're going to say your husband has read the Silmarillion.
I was expecting that too.
Maybe.
You can either confirm or deny.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he has, but no, my coworker Aaron this is his thing. Somebody threw out a joke today on like a call, and he was like, "Oh, they wanted to have trees in our software be entities," and it took most of us a minute to get it. Aaron got it right off the bat, and I was like, "Well, yeah, you just speak Lord of the Rings. That's your second language."
Oh my god, that's crazy.
Yeah, but I mean, to Peter Jackson's credit, he does the one thing that Tolkien has a hard time doing, and it's like show the action, don't talk about it.
Right.
And
yeah, show don't tell.
Show don't tell, which is the number one thing in cinema is show don't tell. You don't need hours of exposition.
Right.
Yeah.
But of course you do in a book.
You do in a book, and again with those active imaginations, Tolkien can get that fired up if you can keep yourself awake long enough to do it. But,
in between bouts of cooking and singing and walking.
Right. I mean, I really don't need to know how horny Tom Bombadil is for his wife.
Those movies, they suffered so much for the lack of Tom Bombadil. Even Tom Bombadil.
I don't need him thirsting over his wife for like half an hour. I'm good.
Oh my god.
We don't need him, period.
Yeah, no, we don't.
Exactly. But again, that's the thing is like the movies worked because Jackson was able to give the grand sense of scale and epic mythology of the books without it getting bogged down.
Right.
Yeah.
You knew when the characters spoke in Elvish, you could tell it was a beautiful language. It flowed beautifully. I don't need to know the history of the Elvish language to know that it's a beautiful language because they did a great job of showing you that it's a beautiful language.
Yeah.
Well, he, as a linguist, Tolkien wrote the Elvish language.
Right.
There were people that were like, what Tolkien did, I want to do that as a job. And that's what they do. They write Klingon and they write, whatever the language is of in
Dothraki.
Dothraki. Exactly. There are people whose that's their job is make up fake languages.
I more prefer the George Lucas way of language creation.
Well, combine two languages together.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's one of those things that they're enjoyable movies. Like I'll go back. I'll probably watch the Lord of the Rings movies once every year or 18 months. I don't get the people who are like, "Oh, I read the Lord of the Rings every year." It's like, why?
No.
How?
I can't. It's really tough.
I read it in high school. I read it again in college. I'm all set. I'm good.
Yeah.
But
I never read it
it's more of a how for me. That's a lot of time to dedicate.
Right. But the movies, I will always, because they're on constant rotation on like USAA and USA and Sci-Fi and all that.
Yeah.
I will stop when it's on TV. I will stop and watch.
Yeah, I've got the Blu-rays of the extended cuts, and that is
you don't need any other
only way to watch it.
And on sometimes like on my days, if I have a day off and I got absolutely nothing to do, I will pop them in and I will veg myself out on the couch and watch the entire trilogy.
They are amazing.
Oh, it's a good background thing for when I'm sewing.
Yeah.
Is to put those on.
Absolutely. All right, well, let's move on. We only have two more to go with. We're running long, so we're going to go quick on these. And the first one, Mike, did you include the Conan movies?
That wasn't me.
That was me. That was
Katherine,
me.
you put Conan.
Never before in the history of motion pictures has there been a screen presence so commanding, so powerful, so deadly. He's Conan the Librarian.
Can you tell me where I can find a book on astronomy?
Don't you know the Dewey Decimal System?
Conan the Librarian.
I'm sorry. These books are a little overdue.
Conan the Librarian.
I didn't even know there was a book series.
Oh my God! You didn't know those were books? Oh
no,
yeah.
I thought it was just a comic book.
No, Conan and Red Sonja are novels.
I did not know that.
Yeah, but they're written like what, the 20s?
Yeah, they're old. They're like, contemporary with the Tarzan books.
And John Carter.
And John Carter, absolutely. But yeah, we got 2 Conan movies, at least 3, because there was a Red Sonja movie, and that kind of counts.
Yeah.
And then I think they did a remake of Conan that we're all gonna pretend doesn't exist.
Yeah, the one with Jason Momoa.
Yeah,
that does not exist.
I haven't seen it, and I'm like,
yeah, from what I heard, so my friend Steve said that the Conan movie was like if you showed a 10-year-old child the Schwarzenegger movie and asked them to replicate that as their own movie, and the only thing that got right was the violence and the nudity.
Oh God. So like, all right.
Yeah.
But those are based on the Conan movies are based on books, and there was more than one of the movies, so that counts in my concoction of this plot. So
yeah.
The rules.
But yeah, the rules that as I have laid them down. And the first movie, you have to have the first movie. I like the second movie so much.
The Destroyer.
Conan the Destroyer is one of my favorite popcorn movies to be like, you know what? I just need laughter and violence and silliness.
Schwarzenegger fucking hated that movie.
Whatever,
he was like,
fun.
No, I know that, but I think he was more like he felt betrayed. It's almost like this movie, it needs to be more violent. What is the PG rating? We've got Wilt Chamberlain in this movie. Have you seen this dude? He fucks all the time.
I've heard he's been begging to do a King Conan movie for like years now.
Well, some people just don't like to make money, Mike.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but that's Conan, and now we know. Now Joe knows it's based on a series of books. I've never read the books, so I can't actually account for their quality. I'm sure that they're very pulpy and written in a time when it was like you get paid by the page.
Yeah, they're pulpy. I started reading a Red Sonja novel and was like, I'm good.
Yeah.
she wore only the chainmail bikini to show that she did not need to defend herself.
Sure.
Okie dokie.
Okay.
Okie dokie, guy.
Okay.
Okie dokie.
All I'm going to say is
excuse
my
the chainmail
nipples
bikini.
hurt listening to that statement.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's move on to the last book series to movies, and that is the Chronic Whatcals of Narnia.
Oh my god.
We're kids!
We spent 25 years in Narnia,
Oh god.
and now we're just kids?
Oh no.
We were kings
Oh.
30 seconds ago, and now we're just kids?
We ruled over a vast nation,
and now we're just poor and from England? I've killed people.
Same.
I decapitated a man.
Oh.
And now what? I'm just supposed to go to middle school?
We met Santa! He gave you a sword! And now what? I'm just supposed to play tag with other 9-year-olds? Like none of that happened?
I was ripped, right?
You were shredded.
Because I'm like 90 pounds right now.
I don't want to do this.
So dating girls our age is off the table.
Oh my god, I had a wife.
Monica, I remember.
I had a talking beaver wife.
Oh my god.
I helped raise her beaver children. They called me dad.
Oh god, did you keep any of your gold?
I'm into beavers now. I prefer them to people.
I had an emerald the size of a walnut around my neck.
What do I do with that?
Oh god.
Yep.
And I have to say, I love the first movie.
Yeah.
I don't think I saw the Dawn Treader or Prince Caspian. And if I did, I don't remember them.
I enjoy all three of them. Yeah, I enjoy all of the movies. I really liked how they hinted at what was going on with Susan and everything. It was very good. It was very well done. I thought the way they expanded on the characters was mostly good. I had a problem with Prince Caspian because Peter was like trying to be king again. And I'm like, that's not in the book.
Yeah.
And, I am not here to take your throne, but to put you on it is a line from the book. Not exactly the quote, but yeah.
Yeah.
But whereas in the movie, he's like trying to take it, and then he goes, "No, I can't." That was the one problem I had. They did such a good job, and they did such a good job expanding and telling more of the story, and like giving people the setting more, because when C.S. Lewis originally wrote the books, he's assuming the setting, and they had to tell people, hey, you're several generations off from World War II, and most of you are in America and didn't experience the Blitz, and so we need to give you guys more information. And also, but again, they talk about where the characters are going. And Susan being very rational, and she is damned for all time because she doesn't accept God as her one savior. Rational.
Yep. No, that's Lewis for you.
Yeah, and they only got through so many of the books and the movies, and then they only the BBC did, but they only got further, but they only got as far as the silver chair. I want my Horse and His Boy movie.
Well, eventually they're going to end up they're going to end up doing the series on Disney Plus. At least that's what I hope happens.
Although I thought
they're
Disney
never going to do
rights.
The Last Battle on Disney Plus. Are you kidding?
I thought that Disney lost the rights to them, or at least just didn't renew.
You may be right, Mike. I'm sorry. It's after. I like I love the first movie so much. I just kind of forgot about everything else. So,
but yeah, again, hey, we're back to James McAvoy. He did a great job as Tumnus.
Yes.
Yeah,
he did.
And that. They made sure that they made that scene spot on for us huge fans. As that was just word for word, line for line, perfect.
Yeah.
And one of the things C.S. Lewis had objected to, he's like, they can never make these into movies because they'll never make the wolves menacing enough. And it's well, you didn't forecast CGI where we could get wolf dogs and then CGI out there wagging tails to make them just more menacing.
I was a little bit wrong there. I just looked it up. When Voyage of the Dawn Treader came out, that was the first film not to be co-produced by Disney, who dropped out over a budget dispute with Walden Media.
Okay.
And then in January 2009, 20th Century Fox acquired the rights, and now Disney got them back with 20th Century Fox.
Womp womp.
Fair enough.
So Disney has the rights again, and I would not be at all surprised if they tried. Ooh,
yeah.
Well, hold on, a possible Netflix reboot.
Well, but they were all of them
on October 3rd, 2018. It was announced that Netflix and the C.S. Lewis Company had made a multi-year agreement to develop a new series of film and TV adaptations.
Okay. Interesting.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But yeah. Horse and His Boy, for people that, I was selling this to one of my coworkers. I'm like, I know that you personally don't like the series, but I'm like, Horse and His Boy is very separate, very different, and very interesting. It's one of my favorite of the books.
I find that one really interesting because it's got like the Pevensies as the High Kings, but they're like kind of like side characters.
Yeah, we're focused on other characters. We're learning more about the world.
Yeah,
that's your world building is Horse and His Boy.
Yeah.
But that is, again, we're talking about a book that has not been adapted yet. So there we go.
Right. And I've only read Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. So.
Oh, dude.
Sorry. Hey, you know what? There's only so many times I can read Dune. My annual read of Dune. So it's Anyway, I think with that, we've done quite well with this. Catherine, thanks for bringing this subject up.
You're welcome.
A lot of great conversations with this.
Definitely.
I look forward to talking about more movies made from books in the future.
Excellent, and we'll find like some neat little subgenre that we can fit them in too. So now that we've done the series, maybe we'll do single books, maybe we'll do graphic novels or comic books, or not so much comic books, but like graphic novels, like single serving graphic novels or something. We'll figure that out. And I want to thank everybody.
Single-serving graphic novels. There'll be, the TV series.
Yep.
Based on graphic novels.
Yep. And Mike's already brought up Scott Pilgrim. You were desperate for that one last time, Mike.
Yeah. But hey, that's a movie, and it'll be soon to be an animated series.
I saw.
All right.
I saw. So anyway, and I want to thank everybody who took the time to respond back with their picks. Thank you so much. We do appreciate it. Give these folks a follow if you're following them on X Twitter. And yeah. So next episode, we are going to hit an annual tradition. We talk about movies from 30 years ago. We are going to be talking about the movies of 1993. Hit us up with your favorite movies from that year, and try to go deep on the deep cuts there, because I love when we bring up more obscure movies. We all know we're going to talk about Jurassic Park. Obviously. We're going to talk about Nightmare Before Christmas. We're going to talk about Schindler's List. Let's have some extra fun with this. So let us know. We'll put the call out on Facebook, where you can find us at Geek Salad Podcast. We are on 10/Twitter/X, Blue Sky, and Threads at Geek Salad Radio. And if you want more Geek Salad goodness, so you can check us out wherever you get your podcasts. So that's Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, or on YouTube by finding Geek Salad Podcast there. You can also check out Mike and my retro movie reviews, where we will count back countless movies, hundreds of movies now in that review catalog now, which is amazing, Mike. I can't believe we've been doing this for 6 years, 5 years, something like that. Anyway, we get a lot of movies there, so check that out on YouTube. You can also get the full audio of these podcasts there as well, if that's your jam. And I know that's Mike's dog's jam because he's barking all about it right now.
I've yelled at him already.
Dog.
Ah, gotcha. So anyway,
it's a dog that Mike lives with. It's not Mike's dog.
No,
that's true. Yeah, sorry. Mike does not claim that dog. I do not recognize the dog. So anyway, until next time, I'm Andy.
I'm Mike.
I'm Joe.
I'm Katherine.
Go forth and be nerdful. We'll talk to you again later. Bye. Bye.
Lord of the Rings is a movie about walking. What they do is they walk and they walk and they walk and they eat some bread and they walk some more. It's like the Bible, but longer.